It's Only Sport with Martin Devlin on the platform. Brought to you by One New Zealand. Let's get connected.
And it's a very warm welcome. It's also going to be goodbye for a while too to Brendan Telfer, who joins us. He's been with us for over a couple of years now, every Wednesday on the program. Telf, it's been a pleasure, mate. Thanks again.
Yes, I've really enjoyed it, Martin. It has been a pleasure because you're one of the few outlets where you deal honestly with sport. I just despair of some of the stuff I'm reading and seeing, particularly seeing. I was just watching, just getting off the track a bit, I suppose. I watched TV3 Sports News last night, which I don't normally watch, but I did for reasons that my wife wanted to watch TV1, but she wasn't in the house. And they started their bulletin, Ollie Richards.
Ollie Ritchie. Ollie Ritchie.
Ollie Ritchie, gushing with their lead story about the women's cricketers playing Australia last night or early this morning, and after that win against India, it's turned everything around. He could hardly control his enthusiasm and excitement that this team were going to break this long drought against Australia, and they were going to march on to big things. And then they had a story which was again, all about how wonderful this cricket team is all of a sudden because they beat India and they've proved their critics wrong. And, it was their first win in 13 matches or something.
Right.
So I suppose that was something to crow about. I wake up this morning, look at my phone, and absolutely normal transmission has been resumed with Australia thrashing them. In fact, it's worse than that because they kept Australia to 148 for 8, and at one stage they were 1 for 54, chasing down a very modest total. Then they lost their last 9 wickets for 34 runs.
Yeah, appalling, mate.
All out for 88. Yeah. And yet here we were last night treated to this insulting kind of expectation that they were going to roll Australia. What I would say on the question of the women cricketers, when you look at their performances in these 2 matches in the World Cup, I think underline this. We've got a pretty good bowling attack. They bowled India out for 102, and to contain Australia to 148 for 8 is a very good effort from our bowlers. But our batters, apart from 3 maybe, Devine, Bates and Kerr, the rest are just way off the standard of international cricket. I mean, I don't know where New Zealand cricket goes here. Maybe they should turn to Chris Luxon, who seems pretty good at setting up all of these commissions investigating every aspect of economic activity in New Zealand. I think they should do one into our women's cricket.
Yeah, look, I tell you a couple of things in there, and look, and I get frustrated as well. As far as the White Ferns go, they can flush the dunny with that because it's all about actually the next 2 games, beating Sri Lanka, which they should do. Then it's going to come down to an effective quarterfinal against Pakistan, and we're favoured to win that. If we win that, we make the semis. So I get upset like you did. Yeah, but Pakistan are pretty good, but they've already lost to India. But what I get upset about is the same as you, is the gushing mainstream media coverage of this, which is so unrealistic and pumps the tyres up of these athletes and gives them the impression that they are so much better and bigger. Look, we spoke to Craig McMillan yesterday on the show, and this was him. I'll play you a couple of quotes.
It's just nice for the girls to play with a smile on their face. The girls got a smile on their face.
I find this patronising. I mean, you would never talk about a men's team like that. So why talk about a women's team like that?
You're talking to me or to McMillan? Me. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, and that filters through, I'm afraid, a lot of women's sport through the media here. The only other guy other than yourself that I enjoy is Chris Rattui from the New Zealand Herald. He doesn't pull any punches when he comes to evaluating sport. He doesn't even bother about gender, and neither should we. But I mean, even that point you've made there, Martin, about making to the quarterfinal, historically in women's cricket, there's only 2 benchmarks, Australia and England.
Yeah.
And
we should be in the top 4. We should be in the top 4, Brendan. No question about it.
Yeah, easy. Yeah, but we are getting beaten at World Cups in the last year or 2 by teams like the West Indies, India, South Africa, and these teams have actually climbed over New Zealand. And so we're probably about the 4th or 5th or 6th ranked team in T20 and women's cricket. And it's a peculiar thing because if you have a look at a lot of other stuff going on at the moment in New Zealand sport, it's extraordinary when you think about how so many of our top teams in sport internationally have just been awful. I mean, let's just go through these. in no particular order. The Warriors self-imploded in the back half of the season.
Yeah, okay. Now, what I'm going to say, just as a precursor to this list, you're going to list a whole lot of teams, and then we're going to talk about the coverage of. The Warriors, for example, there's been no serious analysis of what has been a dreadful season results-wise. It was all a smokescreen with Sean Johnson, and opening a bar in Heritage Jersey. So this is what I find frustrating as well. But you're right, the Warriors, terrible season. Keep going.
The All Blacks, lucky if they can win 2 test matches in a row this year. Our women's rugby side couldn't be
worst run of results, terrible.
Sure. Yeah. And then thumped embarrassingly by England yesterday. The Black Caps humiliated by Sri Lanka, a team that is ranked on the test rankings below New Zealand. Our women cricketers, well, we've just mentioned them, 13 matches before they could have a win, and then normal transmission resumed last night. And so you could also probably add into that the Silver Ferns getting beaten by England. Traditionally for decades we've always beaten England by 20 or 30 goals whenever we play them. But the world has changed. A lot of money's gone into English netball. A lot of their players are now playing in the Australian netball league, which is the best in the world, and we're getting left behind. So
I'll tell you, I'll throw something else into the mix here for you, mate. And this is not a coincidence either. In terms of the Black Ferns, seriously funded side that travel in style, live in resorts, and earn a huge amount of money. Right, appalling results. Black Caps, same. Silver Ferns, they don't get the kind of funding that the rest get. The White Ferns can earn up to $200,000 a year each and lose 13 matches in a row. The Warriors, same. And there's no consequence on results for Black Ferns, Warriors, Black Caps, White Ferns. These players turn up for training, Brendan. It doesn't matter whether they win or lose. They still get handsomely paid. The media gushes up their backside. And I think there's actually something connecting all of this, because in any occupation on earth, it doesn't matter what it is, if you're in an achievement occupation or a performance-based occupation and there is no serious scrutiny of your performance or your lack of achievement, then what do? Human nature is you just don't take it as seriously as you should. Simplistic?
Well, I think, I don't know, they would argue they probably do. But, I mean, even under that system, being on a professional contract, and it doesn't matter whether you win or lose, you get paid, there still is an accountability. And, in fact, what we should be seeing would be in these teams that are performing poorly, key players are dropped. And so they lose part of not all of their contract. Whether that happens or not is another matter.
It doesn't.
And in a small talent pool like New Zealand, there's not too many players that you can bring in to replace who you think is your best national team. And the All Blacks are no different. You can argue about the form of some of these guys in the All Black side, but you drop them. Who do you replace them with?
Yeah.
Someone better?
Yeah.
No, if they were better, they'd be in the squad in the first place.
Yeah.
So it's... But I was thinking, it's probably a good time to be finishing this weekly analysis of New Zealand sport on your show, because I've never known all my time in broadcasting sport and covering sport for 30 or 40 years, I can't recall so many of our leading national teams, all, dare I say, here we go again with this term, role models for the younger generation of Kiwis playing sport. I can't remember when so many of our leading teams have been performing so poorly internationally.
See, I drew the parallel with the money as well. And then you look at our Olympic athletes, who most of them actually they live on an oily rag, mate. They train hard. They do this solo, and yet they overachieve on a world level. We come back with 10 gold medals for the whole lot of sports that get none of the funding of what these other teams get.
It's Only Sport with Martin Devlin on the platform. Brought to you by One New Zealand. Let's get connected.